Last week was rough. There's really no sugarcoating. When you go dois acertos, seed arrows, that's not just a bad beat. That's a full-on disaster. But hey, new studio, new energy, and we're not backing down. That's not how we operate around here. The picks may have flopped last time, but the bounce back is coming, and it's coming fast. So welcome back, folks, to another fresh edition of Uncle Dan's Best Bets, now streaming from this beautiful brand new studio. We're leveling up, and not just with the scenery. This week, I'm feeling dangerous. We're locking in 8 plays for Week 2 of the NFL season, and yes, I'm guaranteeing a winning week. No ifs, no maybes. If it doesn't hit, you get the picks next week for free. That's how confident I am about this slate. Last week is history. Now it's time to cash in. Let's start by looking at something I absolutely love this time of year, overs. Now, I'm always a fan of high-scoring games, but Week 2? That's where things get especially juicy. Think about it. Defenses are gassed. They're still recovering from the pounding of Week 1. They haven't felt this kind of physical toll in months. On the other side, you got offenses full of rhythm, especially ones that took it easy during the preseason. The timing's coming together. The legs are fresh. And when those tired defenses meet tuned-up offenses, that's a recipe for points. Lots of them. Now, I tried digging into historical data to back up this theory. And, weirdly enough, it's tough to track down consistent trends from past seasons. But what we do know is that Week 1 was loaded with unders and chalky favorites getting it done. That tells me the pendulum is ready to swing. The books adjusted, the public overreacted, and now it's time for some course correction. So we're going aggressive with this 8-pack of picks. We're trusting the numbers, reading between the lines, and chasing value wherever we can find it. We kick things off down in Texas with a line that feels almost too good to be true. Cowboys -4.5 against the Giants. Now, I'm not someone who loves jumping on favorites just for the sake of it, but this spot is too strong to ignore. Dallas is coming off extra rest thanks to that early Thursday night game, and when Dak Prescott faces the Giants, it's lights out. He's 13-0 straight up in his last 13 starts against them. 11 of those wins by at least 5 points. And we're not talking squeakers either. Dallas has dropped 35 or more in over half of those games. At home, well-rested, and facing a New York team that still can't figure out how to score consistently? Yeah, this is a no-brainer. Give me the Cowboys to cover and cover big. Next up, we're riding with the Bengals -3.5. And yes, I know, they burned us last week. I get it. But look, the Bengals never win in Week 1. That's just a thing now. Joe Burrow even joked about it, saying they're off to a better start than last year. They looked flat, they left points on the field, and they got hit in the mouth by Cleveland. But I'm not buying that as who they really are. This offense is still elite. That defense will tighten up. And the Jaguars, who everyone's suddenly hyping up after one win. I'm not sold. This feels like a classic buy low, sell high scenario. Public's bailing on the Bengals, and I'm diving in. Trust Burrow and the bounce back. If you're into overs, and you should be, I've got an ugly one for you. Patriots and Dolphins over 43.5. It doesn't sound sexy, I know, but hear me out. The Patriots might actually be able to move the ball. Their offense looked halfway competent, and the Dolphins' defense is suspect at best. Now, I almost went with Patriots plus the 1.5, but I'll wait on that. For now, I like the total. Mike McDaniel knows his team needs to click offensively to stay in games. If there's anything left in the tank, they'll show it here. Neither defense inspires much confidence, and this could quietly turn into a shootout. Sometimes it's the ugly games that print the tickets. Rolling along, give me the Lions -6.5 at home against the Bears. Big number? Sure, but the market is all over Detroit in this one. Just 14% of the bets are on them, but they're pulling in 82% of the money. That's the kind of sharp action you want to follow. Dan Campbell's crew always plays with a chip on their shoulder, and they're coming off a loss where they just didn't look like themselves. Add in the fact that they're back indoors, where Jared Goff thrives, and this becomes a perfect storm. The Bears, on the other hand, looked completely lost in the second half of their game. Short week, bad vibes, and now they've got to deal with a Lions team hungry to get back on track? Yeah, give me Detroit to cover with room to spare. All right. Let's talk about a line that's throwing people for a loop, Colts versus Broncos. Now, based on Week 1, You'd think the Colts would be favored here. They blew out the Dolphins, while Denver looked like a mess. But Vegas isn't falling for it, and neither am I. Broncos are favored by 1.5, and that screams trap to me. The casual fan sees this and jumps all over the Colts as home underdogs. But this is where we fade the noise and follow the smart money. Denver's getting over half the bets, but 3/4 of the money. That's telling. I think Miami was just that bad, and Denver simply cannot play worse than they did. Their defense is elite. The offense is pieces. This is the bounce-back game. I'll take Denver to win and cover. You want a dog? I've got a dog. Falcons plus 3.5 at Minnesota. This is another sharp play, and it's all about fading the hype. Vikings look great, sure, but we've seen this story before. Young quarterback, short week, against a team that should have at least pushed the Bucs to overtime? I'll take Atlanta. The Falcons are only getting about 20% of the bets, but they're seeing 60% of the money. That's a huge gap. This defense can play better, and the Vikings, as good as they looked, are still prone to inconsistency. I'll back the underdog here, and I wouldn't be shocked if Atlanta wins outright. That's 6 picks in, but we're not done yet. Bills versus Jets. Give me the over 46.5. Buffalo's offense finally started to cook in that second half last week, and I don't think that was a fluke. I'm not totally sold on their defense either, especially coming off a physical game against Baltimore. Meanwhile, the Jets aren't the same old mess they used to be. They've got a new quarterback, fresh leadership, and enough offensive weapons to hang. I'm not calling a shootout, but I do see points coming from both sides. This total feels just a little too low for what these teams are capable of doing. And to round it out, we're digging into some player props. Kill Shakir, over 45.5 receiving yards. Keon Coleman's going to draw the heavy attention, possibly even Sauce Gardner on the outside. That opens the door underneath for Shakir to rack up catches and quietly put together a solid game. This is the kind of play that goes under the radar, but ends up being a difference maker on your ticket. So that's where we're starting this week. 8 plays, loaded with value, and I'm telling you, this is the week we flip the script. No more almost. No more heartbreaks. Let's cash some tickets, ride the trends, and turn this thing around. If there's one thing we've learned over the years, it's that the NFL is all about reactions, and more importantly, overreactions. Week 1 always causes a stir. A team looks unbeatable. Suddenly, they're Super Bowl bound. Another team falls flat. Everyone's ready to throw them into the draft lottery. But smart bettors know how to cut through that noise. And this week, it's all about zigging where the public zags. Staying level-headed. Recognizing the setups that scream, trap, and walking straight into them, but with eyes wide open and a ticket in hand. That's exactly what we're doing with a pick like Denver. You watched that Broncos game last week and think, there's no way I can trust them again. But that's the point. The books want you to think that. They're begging for money to come in on the other side. But when you look deeper, when you consider how few teams come into the season completely polished, you start to see it for what it is. The NFL is a marathon, not a sprint. Week 2 is where teams settle in, where coaching shows, where adjustments start to matter. And I'd much rather back a team with talent that stumbled than overpay for one that peaked too early. Same idea with the Bengals. That offense is too good to struggle like that 2 weeks in a row. Joe Burrow's not panicking, and neither should we. If anything, this is the perfect spot to back a team that the public's bailing on after one bad outing. If Cincinnati gets going early in this one, that 3.5 number could look like a gift. These are the types of plays where you don't just bet with your wallet, but with your mindset. Are you trying to chase what already happened, or are you willing to lean into what's coming next? And while we're talking mindset, let's go back to the overs. Everyone saw the unders cash like crazy last week. That's exactly why I love overs even more in week 2. Think about what defenses just went through. The pace, the physicality, the adjustments, the adrenaline crash that comes after opening weekend. It all adds up, and when they line up again, just a few days later, that soreness becomes real. Missed tackles become more common. Sloppy coverage happens. And if you've got 2 offenses with rhythm and playmakers, you get shootouts that no one saw coming. That's why I'm willing to roll with totals like Patriots and Dolphins over 43.5. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece. It just needs to get loose. You get a fluke special team score, one broken tackle, one big play, and suddenly you're on pace for the number halfway through the third quarter. These games often start slow and then explode late. The key is seeing the potential before the box score tells the story. And let's not forget about momentum either. The Lions, for example, are built to respond to adversity. Say what you will about Dan Campbell, but his teams don't quit. And now they're coming off a game where they looked sluggish. They're coming back home. And they're facing a Bears team that looked completely disorganized in the second half. You don't just bet the Lions because of trends, although the smart money is clearly on them. You bet them because of energy, because they're going to show up pissed off, aggressive, and with a very clear mission: make a statement. The Falcons pick is the same type of play, but from the other angle. You've got a team that didn't quite get the result last week, but competed hard against a legit opponent. They go on the road, sure, but they're catching points against a Vikings team that everyone suddenly believes in. Why? Because they beat a Bears team that hasn't had a stable offense in years? I'm not sold. This is the kind of line that tries to bait the public into overvaluing a win that might not mean all that much. The Falcons play tough. They can run the ball. They can eat clock. They keep things close. That's exactly what you want when you're grabbing points on the road. Now look, there's no such thing as a safe play in this league. Every single pick can turn on a fumble, a tipped ball, a missed kick, or an untimely flag. But what you can control is how you approach the slate. Are you letting week one panic shape your bets? Or are you staying locked in on value, trends, and situations that still line up? That brings us to Bills and Jets. The over feels right. Buffalo's offense finally started clicking last week. And when they do, the points come in bunches. And the Jets, I don't care what you thought about them last year. This isn't the same team. New quarterback, more discipline, real weapons. They don't have to be elite. They just have to be competent enough to keep up. And honestly, I think they are. You add that to a Bills defense that's already dealing with some wear and tear, and you've got the potential for a back-and-forth game where both teams get into the 20s. You're not asking for a fireworks show, just a clean, competitive game where each offense finds rhythm. That's doable. That's beatable. And while we're here, let's talk about one of my favorite edges in betting: player props. Kill Shakir over 45.5 receiving yards isn't just some flyer. It's based on matchup, game script, and attention. Keon Coleman is going to be the magnet. He's flashy, he draws eyes, and with Sauce Gardner likely shadowing him, that leaves Shakir with room to operate underneath. The Bills' offense doesn't mind spreading the ball around, and if they're looking for quick reads and easy completions, Shakir is going to be a big part of that. It's not about him breaking a deep one, although he can. It's about stacking up targets and letting the yards follow. Sometimes the best bets aren't the loudest. They're the ones that win quietly while everyone else is watching the headline names. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. The NFL world is buzzing with speculation tonight after the Buffalo Bills dropped what could be one of the most intriguing announcements of the offseason. In a move that has already sent shockwaves through social media, the team confirmed the signing of superstar linebacker TJ Watt. The news alone would have been enough to dominate headlines, but the Bills added a tantalizing twist. Another star player, still cloaked in mystery, is reportedly joining the squad. Fans and analysts alike are scrambling to figure out who this second superstar could be. Speculation ranges from elite quarterbacks looking for a fresh start to proven offensive playmakers who could instantly elevate Buffalo's roster. The team has been notoriously tight-lipped, refusing to release even a hint about the identity of this mystery player. This has only fueled the frenzy, with rumors multiplying by the hour and social media feeds exploding with guesses, leaks, and wild theories. Adding TJ Watt to the Bills is a seismic shift in itself. Known for his relentless pass rush, leadership on the field, and ability to change the course of a game with a single play, Watt brings a level of intensity and skill that few defenders in the league can match. His presence could be the missing piece the Bills need to solidify a championship-caliber defense and give their offense, already potent, the breathing room to dominate games. Yet, it's the second name that has everyone whispering. Could be a veteran quarterback eager for a new chapter, a Pro Bowl receiver with the ability to stretch the field and command defenses, or perhaps a surprise defensive juggernaut. Complementing Watt's ferocity, Buffalo insiders are tight-lipped, but the murmurs suggest the announcement will be made sooner rather than later, setting the stage for one of the most electrifying off-seasons in recent memory. One thing is clear. The Bills are not content to simply participate. They are making a statement. With Watt on board and the promise of another high-profile addition, the team is signaling that it intends to contend at the highest level and that the AFC will need to pay close attention. Fans are bracing for a whirlwind of news, speculation, and undoubtedly more surprises. The NFL rumor mill has never been hotter, and Buffalo has just poured gasoline on the fire. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.